it's Gina, and it is day 3 of the Lupus and Chronic Illness Awareness Challenge. Now, if you'd still like to take part in it, I will post the link down below so that you are able to go ahead and just check out what it's all about. And if you want to join, feel free. It's only the 3rd day in, so it's never too late. Okay, so like I said, it is day 3 of the Lupus and Chronic Illness Awareness Challenge, and today's prompt is, how did you get your diagnosis? So as you can see, I was diagnosed with quite a few things in addition to lupus. But I'm going to tell my story by going backwards as well as going ahead past my lupus diagnosis time to where I am today. So I was diagnosed with lupus in 2012. It was around the same time that I was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia. But getting to that lupus diagnosis was such a journey. It was one doctor after another. It was one complaint after another on my part because I knew something was wrong and I just couldn't find out what it was. My doctors couldn't seem to figure out what it was. So let's take a step back from my lupus diagnosis of 2012, and I can tell you a few things that happened prior to that. You've seen my list of diagnoses. Back in 2000, around 2005, I was diagnosed with emphysema. Prior to that, it was asthma. But I remember coming to my doctor on a particular day, and I just was having such a hard time breathing. And I just figured, okay, it's got to be my asthma issues all acting up. I had been taking the inhaler. Nothing seemed to be working. So my doc looked at me and said, you know what, let's just go ahead and get some lung x-rays done. So we get the x-rays done, and I'm sitting in his office and we're waiting for the results. And after a few minutes, he comes in, he sits down, he looks at me, he says, you know, typically what I'm about to tell you, I would be telling to somebody who is a smoker, and I would be telling them, it's time to quit smoking. But you're not a smoker, so this is going to be really hard. You've got emphysema. And he went on to tell me that I had about 75% lung function in my right lung. My left lung seemed to be pretty okay. And he asked me all of these questions. Had I ever been tubed? A bunch of things. And at the time, it didn't hit me. But apparently, a surgery that I had 20 years ago, when I flatlined on the operating table during an ovarian surgery, I discovered 2 weeks after I gave birth to my daughter that I had cancer and that I was also still pregnant with what should have been my daughter's twin, but that one didn't develop. So here I was on the operating table, and from what my doctor is telling me, I ended up flatlining. Blood is pumping in, blood is pumping out. And he said to me, you know, you're not supposed to be here today. Okay, but apparently God had other plans. So 20 years ago, whatever they did triggered something in my lungs. My right lung was damaged because my lungs had collapsed while I had flatlined. My lungs had collapsed. My heart had stopped beating. And apparently, whatever happened back then triggered this emphysema that was going on in my lungs. So that day, my asthma diagnosis was then changed to emphysema. It wasn't extreme, wasn't severe. It was mild emphysema, but nevertheless, it was emphysema. So go ahead a few years, and I start complaining about a bunch of tingling and pains that I was feeling in my legs and in my hands. I had already been diagnosed with the heart problem, and so that we had the heart problem, we had the lung problem, but now these issues were just something completely different. And I was constantly getting this numb feeling in my legs, numbness in my feet, tingling in my hands, my feet. It was just really weird. You know what it feels like whenever a body part has fallen asleep and you're slapping to try and get it to wake up. It's that kind of feeling. But I knew that something was seriously wrong. This was just not normal for me. So I kept going back to my doctor, and he would send me for more blood work and more blood work. And after a while, uh, he came back and he said, I think I found the problem. Your B12 is severely deficient. Like, okay, whatever that means. Because at the time, I really didn't know much about what B12 and a vitamin B12 deficiency could actually do. So he said, well, we're going to start you on some B12 shots. And at that time, I received the diagnosis of pernicious anemia. So I knew this was serious. So for, I'd say, about 6 months, I kept getting these B12 shots and nothing worked. So I came back and I was complaining again. I'm still feeling the numbness. I'm still feeling the tingling in my legs and my hands. The B12 shots are obviously not working. So he said, okay, I think it's time I send you to a neurologist. So we go to a neurologist, and it is May 3rd. It's a day before my birthday, and I've been told that these tests take 2 days to do. So the first day, he's basically kind of shocking all my fingers, shocking my toes, along my legs, along my arms. It's a nerve conduction test to basically see how well your nerves are functioning. So May 4th, I go back in and it's my birthday, and he looks at me. He says, do you know what I'm about to do to you? Why are you here? So I said, well, you did say, I'm supposed to come back in because this is his second day of testing. He said, well, basically, happy birthday. Do you know what I'm about to do to you? Why are you here? And it was the same response. Well, you told me to show up. I'm here for the second day of testing. Forget that it's my birthday. Let's just get this over with. So he basically shows there's a needle. And I think I told this story before, but he holds up and there's a needle in his hand, and it's attached to a cord, which is attached to a machine. And he said, this explained what he's going to do. It's basically going to stick me into different parts of my body. He starts with along my calves, works his way up to my legs, and did a few along my arms. And then he says, well, you kind of need to get into the fetal position. This is where I got scared, because he explained to me that he had to insert this into different areas of my spine. So I turn sideways and I curl up into the fetal position, and I'm pretty close to tears. And he's inserting into the different areas. And after a couple minutes, didn't last very long, but after a couple minutes, he said, okay, I'm done. You can relax. And he goes over to the window, and you have to imagine this hospital where I'm at it's got this breathtaking view of the river. And he's standing and he's looking out at the river. And then he turns and he looks at me. He says, I don't know what to tell you. Said, I have never seen this kind of nerve damage, this extent of nerve damage in someone as young as you are. What's worse is that I know you're a martial artist. You take good care of yourself. So to see this extent of nerve damage is unreal. And then he said the next thing, I'm going to suggest that you get tested for lupus. I'm going to write a letter to your doctor letting him know that I think you should be tested for lupus because there's nothing else to explain what's happening with you. So skip ahead a few days and I'm back at my primary care, and he said, the neurologist sent over your work, and this is the medication that you're going to get started on. Basically, it was gabapentin or Neurontin. It's called both names. And so I was started on that. He said, I'm also going to send you to get tested for lupus. Now, I didn't let it on that I really didn't know what lupus was. But in between the time that I saw my neurologist and then went to see my primary care doctor, I'd done a little bit of research, so I had some clue. But then my primary care said, okay, we're going to send you to have some blood work done. That blood work is going to be sent off, and we'll see whether you have lupus or not. So a few days later, the results come back, and he said, well, the results are positive. Apparently, you have lupus. But I don't agree with that. I don't believe you have lupus. So I'm going to send you to get more blood work done. This time we're going to send it off to a special clinic. It's going to take a little bit longer, and it'll confirm or deny whether you have lupus. All right, so I go for more blood work. And this time they take out, I want to say about 6 vials. And again, it's sent off to this special clinic. And it takes about 3 weeks to get back the results. When the results do come back, I'm called in, and I sit down in the chair, and he looks at me, says, well, the results are here, and it does confirm that you do have lupus. Well, you have lupus, so let's get you started on some treatment. And out comes the Plaquenil and a bunch of other things. So that was basically my lupus diagnosis. Now from there, I go on the following year to get diagnosed with depression, because this literally has plunged me into deep depression, because I basically received what I think was a life sentence, or I shouldn't say a life sentence, a death sentence. And I was terrified. I had no clue how to put my previous life with this current diagnosis and what I was hoping my future life was going to be. This completely changed everything. So I was diagnosed with depression, and I went on to receive a costochondritis um, diagnosis when I came in, and it was very hard to breathe, and it was discovered I then had arthritis in my rib cage. Later on, it was discovered I had arthritis in my spine. Later on, it was also discovered that I also have what's called pectus excavatum, and that was discovered purely by accident. I had a hysterectomy in 2016, and after several issues, a CT scan was ordered, and it was discovered that I had this condition called pectus excavatum. It was also discovered that I have a cyst on my liver, and I was then later diagnosed with icepick headaches. That was actually just about 2 months ago. Um, I also deal with tinnitus. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what tinnitus is. It's a constant ringing in your ears. Some days it gets so loud that it can drown out everything that's going on around me. And I literally curl up in a corner and kind of rock back and forth and cry, because I'm not, if you deal with tinnitus on a daily basis, you understand what I'm talking about. Some days I can drown out the ringing. A lot of days, like right now, I can actually hear the ringing above my own voice, and I've found ways that I can manage it, but it's just been one diagnosis after another diagnosis after another diagnosis. So yes, there's the lupus diagnosis, but many of you know that when you get a lupus diagnosis, typically there's several other overlapping illnesses that come along with that. I'm also being screened for POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I'm also being screened for Sjogren's, because I've developed a condition in my eyes, where my eyes are extremely dry. My throat is also extremely dry, and those are typically the two signs of Sjogren's syndrome. I'm being treated for the eye condition, but at the same time I'm being screened for all of these other things. And it's tough when you have to deal with so many different conditions on a daily basis. It's not just lupus, you're dealing with all of the chronic pain that lupus causes, but you're never really sure whether it's lupus or one of these other conditions that is really causing your pain. But the idea is that every day I get up, I get dressed, I throw whatever little makeup I want to on my face, and I get on with life, because we cannot let lupus or all of these other conditions, whatever they may be, take away your life. We cannot let them hold us down. We have to be masters at falling down and getting up, falling down and getting up. With every time we fall, we need to be able to get back up, no matter what our diagnoses are, whether it be lupus, fibromyalgia, whatever the case is. We have to be masters at getting up every time we fall. And that is what I'm learning to do on a daily basis. It is something I learn to do every single day. And I know this was not supposed to be kind of a motivational part, but this is how I ended up finally getting to my lupus diagnosis. It was all of these other illnesses that were occurring, and my doctors feel that I might have had lupus for quite a while because of all of these conditions that I was diagnosed with, but it took one neurologist to suggest to my primary care, maybe you need to get tested for lupus. And that is what it turned out was causing all of these other issues. Now, if you are dealing with lupus or you have lupus symptoms and you're not sure, keep bugging your doctor. That's what it took me. I just kept bugging my doctor. I said, there's something not right. I am a fit person. I take care of myself. There is something going on, and I need to know what it is so that we can fix it. So if you are new to the lupus scene, um, my prayers go out to you, because this is something we have to do on a daily basis, is pray and never give up hope. But if you are new to this, keep at your doctor. Make sure that you are a working partner with your doctor in your health care. Do not just turn this over completely to your doctor. We're going to be discussing this in future videos, so I'm not going to drag that part out. This is basically about how I ended up finally getting the lupus diagnosis, in addition to all of the others. So, all right, so I've discussed how I finally got to the lupus diagnosis, in addition to the others as well, because they all kind of tie in together. It's not just a lupus diagnosis. There's all of the others that kind of, they all are part of the puzzle, and they all fit into or fit around this lupus piece of puzzle. And I have to deal with all of them. I just can't deal with lupus. I deal with all of the symptoms that are causing these conditions. In another video, I'm going to be discussing different herbal remedies and essential herb remedies that I use in my treatment, in addition to a few other things. That's coming up later. But with this one, I just wanted to talk to you about how I finally got to the lupus diagnosis. If you are taking part in this challenge, I would love for you to post your links below so that I can follow you. If you have not started the challenge and would love to, I will also post that link below so that you can get started if you wish to. You do not have to do a video like I'm doing. You can do, if you have a blog post or a blog, then you can go ahead and do a written blog post. I just find it easier to just sit and talk. Sometimes it's hard for me to sit and type up quite a bit, because a lot of the times my hands are really tight. So if you do have a blog, feel free to just go ahead and do a blog post about it, and I will post all of the day 1 and day 2 videos below. You can also see the actual challenge. I'll have that image within this video so that you can determine where you'd like to begin. Okay. I want to say thank you for following this this lupus challenge so far. It's only been day 3, but I want to thank you for being there. Thank you for watching. If you've learned something from this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. If you are not a subscriber and you'd like to continue receiving the notifications for when I'm posting these videos, please just click the subscribe button and you won't miss out on any of these. This is a 30-day journey. We're now on day 3, and there's going to be a prompt for each day, which you will receive within the photograph of the 30-day challenge. So if you'd like to do that, again, that link is below. Thank you for being there. I appreciate you being there, and I will see you on the next video.